Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my summer reading recommendations. So these are books that I feel like are just good ones to read during summer. They are kind of all over in genre, so there's like kind of contemporary, historical fiction, fantasy, and I think like especially this summer with everything that's going on, it's nice to have books that you can totally immerse yourself in their world and you can just kind of lose yourself in there. So these are my summer reading recommendations. So starting out, I first have The Peach Keeper by Sarah Addison Allen, and this book just screams summer for me. So it takes place in Georgia and like the peak of summer, so I just like, and like the characters also are drinking like tea, sweet tea and all that, so I feel like this just screams summer for me. But basically it follows these two families, and back in the day they were like, you know, very wealthy and like socialites, but one of the family ended up going into financial ruin and they blamed the other family for it. So they've been kind of angry at each other for many years, but when a body has been found over one of the family's old house, like old like mansions, Peachtree, it kind of sparks a debate there and it goes off from there. But these books in particular have like a magical realism aspect in here, which I think also makes it a lot of fun to read during the summer. But I think just also the setting, like the steamy hot Georgia, like I totally can picture that, and it's, yeah, it will be interesting I think for me. But yeah, like I'm not doing a good job because I think it's best to like go into this book not knowing too much about it, but you can just totally immerse yourself in the summer heat of this book to kind of add to your atmospheric reading at home. So but I feel like this book just is really fun. The magical realism aspect in here makes it really stand out as well, and it's just a lot of fun to read. So if you're looking for like a nice book to read when it's hot and you have a nice cup of iced tea with you, this is the book you want to read. So next up I have The Things We Do for Love by Kristin Hannah, and this is actually the first book that I read of Kristin Hannah, maybe back in 2011, and it's definitely one of my favorites. So it follows this woman who just came out of a divorce. She's having a really hard time. She hasn't been able to have a kid, and so she ends up moving away and starting out in this new town where she ends up hiring a kind of troubled young woman who's been kind of abandoned by her mother, who's still in high school, to kind of help out in there. But she ends up like forming this special bond with her new friend, and it kind of goes off from there. But I think it really kind of showcases how like the depths that we can feel for love for people and like friendship and just the meaningful relationships we have with people and how that is important in life. And this one is just a tearjerker, I feel like, with all Kristin Hannah books, but this one in particular I really enjoyed. Like I said, this is my first one, so it's near and dear to my heart, but I think the fact that it kind of talks about the different aspects of love is just really interesting, and seeing their friendship blossom I thought was really good, especially because one, like the teenager has been abandoned by her mother, and Angie like takes Lauren under her wing, and it kind of goes off from there, and there's just, it's really good. I like recommend it. I think like for this one as well, just kind of go into it not knowing too much about the plot and just kind of really just immerse yourself in these worlds and these characters and just really appreciate the relationships that we make with others. Next, I have The Girl You Left Behind by Jojo Moyes, and this is a historical fiction dual storyline. So it follows one girl named Sophie who's growing up in France, whose husband painted her like a beautiful portrait, but when France is overtaken by Germany during World War I, the portrait goes missing, never to be seen again. But then it somehow ends up in the apartment of another person, and they find out that it was actually stolen by Germans during World War I, and it kind of sparks like this big court battle for it. So I really love this one. I think especially because it is a World War I book. I tend to, most of my World War historical fictions are always World War II. So this one was very much a fresh, like a breath of fresh air. Like it was something different than what I normally tend to gravitate towards, but I really loved it. It was just interesting seeing how the story jumped between like World War I to present day, and just how these different timelines are connected by a portrait, which I think is just super interesting, and it's just really well done. So this is a total, like another book you can totally immerse yourself in, and you can have a lot of fun reading this. It's not too long, so you probably could finish it relatively quickly, but nevertheless, I think you guys will really enjoy this. Next, I have The Clockmakers Daughter by Kate Morton, and I'm a huge Kate Morton fan. I've read all of her books, and I feel like her books are perfect to read in summer because they're bigger books, but they're very dense in terms of the writing. You can see, like, I'll try to find a page, but you can like see that there isn't much dialogue in there. It's very much prose, which I actually prefer. I like that better, but you can really focus on that. So basically the premise of the story, it follows a woman during present day who finds this satchel that has a portrait of a beautiful woman in Victorian clothes and a kind of journal of like doodles and all that, and like painting, like sketches, basically a sketchbook. That's what I'm trying to say. But she's very curious about this woman. There's something about that picture that very much captivates her. So she's trying to uncover who this woman is. And while this is going on, we get flashbacks to the 1800s following a young girl who is the clockmaker's daughter and her kind of romance with a painter, and it kind of goes off from there. But what's really interesting compared to the other like Kate Morton books, this one has a supernatural aspect in here as well, which I think added like a new twist to her books, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was really well done, and it just, the ghost is basically like seeing her, you kind of get to see her narration, and she's kind of floating around following these different people, which I really enjoyed. So I think this one has an air of mystery into it. So again, just kind of go into this and just experience this book because I think you guys will love it. The supernatural aspect part in here really took me by surprise, but I love how it was a perfect integration of kind of supernatural, historical fiction, and mystery. And lastly, I have The House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And I understand the problematic aspects with Sarah J. Maas's books. I acknowledge them. I'm aware of them. I totally, like, there were many problematic aspects in here, but I feel like this is like, it's like a food that you know is not good for you, but you still eat anyway. Like, I know this book isn't good for me, like, in any way, but it's just, you know, you still watch it. Like, it's like a train wreck. You can't look away. Like, it's just so crazy and over the top sometimes, but nevertheless, I feel like this is a perfect book to read this summer. Me and my friend Buddy read this right around the times when our states were implementing the shelter in place, like quarantine orders. So I feel like this book really can help you kind of escape our kind of world right now, and just, you know, you can worry about the problems in this world because there are plenty. But what I really like about this, it takes place in like a modern day metropolis, and it's basically like a Zootopia equivalent for Sarah J. Maas, like creatures essentially. And so it follows a girl named Bryce who is half fae, half human, and she witnesses her best friend was murdered, her friends were slaughtered, and she's very much struggling with the aftermath of that until 2 years after the fact. There's been a string of murders as well that are very similar to that, or like same MO as her friends, and so she's been tasked to kind of find what's going on, and it kind of goes off from there. But it was just a fun book. It was just like, I don't take it too seriously. There's problematic aspects in here. Like, Bryce is the total like party, like university girl, like basically the equivalent of a frat boy for a girl essentially. So she's not the most likable character, but I don't know, this is just a good one to read. It totally distracts you. This world is very interesting, and I did like the overarching storyline, even though I didn't really like the main character that much. And me and my friend actually flew through this. It's just under 800 pages, and we finished it in like a week and a half, which I think is a very good accomplishment. But nevertheless, if you're looking for just something to read this summer that will keep you entertained, I recommend this. It does take a while. The first 100 pages are like part one, which are like 90 so pages, are really confusing. So once you get past that initial like uphill battle of the first 90 pages, it's smooth sailing after that. But nevertheless, I still really enjoyed this, and it's just a fun chick lit type of book. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what some of your summer reading recommendations are and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.